Hi everyone, welcome. I'm feeling a little bit nervous to do this video for multiple reasons. One of the reasons being that I haven't been on a video and I haven't spoke about anything like this on a video at this length before and in the detail I kind of want to go into. And I haven't made a video in a long time. And I feel nervous because I want to get everything in and I want to get all of my message across and everything that I want to share in here. So that's my prayer that comes through and comes across to you today. So first of all, thank you for being here, and it honestly feels like an honor that you want to be here to listen to my conception story and the conscious conception story and of what I went through. And it feels like an honor that you're interested, that you're here. And I also just know that the importance and the vulnerability in sharing this, and just knowing how it was so helpful and beneficial for me to listen to things like this when I went through when we're wanting to conceive before we had got pregnant. And I'm here now and I am 6 months pregnant with our healthy baby boy. And it feels really good to feel him and hold him here and feel him kicking and moving, especially because I'd felt him for so long. It was about 2 years ago in my temple in a meditation. Was it a breathwork or meditation? I was by myself doing some sort of meditation, and it was this huge realization and truth of feeling the spirit of a boy and feeling like, oh wow, it's a boy. And and it, as soon as we conceived, we just knew immediately that it was a boy. However, it feels so much more real and special and connected to have it confirmed as a boy and have our knowing confirmed. So, I wrote things down. I kind of wrote a timeline because I want to get everything in. So, I'm going to take you back now. So, I want to go back a little bit. I want to go back kind of to the start and just give you a brief on the background of where I was at, and then kind of go into the 7 months before we conceived. So as soon as me and my partner Yuda were together 4.5 years ago, it was like as soon as we were in, maybe even before a year, it was already, this wanting and yearning of yes, this is who I want to have a baby with, this is who I want to have a family with, this is who I can see growing together with. And in that lust, in that love, in that excitement of a new relationship, it was really kind of the naivety of me being I would just get pregnant now. I want to. And when I really dropped into it, I didn't actually want to, and I wasn't ready to, but I wanted to in the future. And I had this knowing and this kind of calling and intuition within me that yes, this is the person, and yes, we are going to create a family together. And just being super excited for that, and amongst all of the kind of emotional roller coaster and everything that we were always going through in our relationship, as all relationships, as we are growing together. So there was already this kind of desire, I almost kind of feel it and see it as a seed was planted within me. And a seed was planted within me, and of having this desire. And I felt it become stronger, and it was something that was actively on my mind after about another 6 months. Now, when it would come up on my mind, I actually want to go back and I want to say it wasn't actively on my mind at this point. Sorry. It was on my mind though. And it would just like drop in here and there. And, you know, Yuda was like, yep, let's have a baby. Like, he was like ready to go. But I was the one who then was like, no, right, we're not ready. I'm not ready. Let's just, you know. And, and the desire got stronger. And when the desire did start to get a little bit stronger, just like gradually kind of, just like quite probably at like a normal, healthy, I don't even know what normal is, you know, just a rate. I then started to feel lots of fear coming up of like, what if I can't get pregnant? You know, as the desire got stronger, the fear kind of also got stronger of like, but what if I can't get pregnant? And I'm one of those people that I'm a recovered hypochondriac. And because of my own personal trauma and my own personal childhood and just conditioning and life, I really became this hypochondriac, and that would be like I would have immense panic and fears, and my mind would want to fixate on something even if it actually really wasn't going to happen. Like it made no sense for that fear to come true. My mind would kind of look for things and search for things, and because what happens is, when there's anxiety in the body, the mind wants to understand why am I anxious, what am I anxious about? And sometimes that anxiety is just there because it's old trauma and it's terror and it's fear living in the body, and it would be just maybe triggered a little bit, or just, you know, it's there under the skin. And when my anxiety would come online, my mind would want to fixate and give it a reason for being there. So unconsciously I was doing this. I wasn't doing it consciously. And then I would, be like, oh, this thing's going to happen. This thing's going to happen. This thing's going to happen. And after like many years, it got better and better and better and better. And it really got to this place where, you know, like it really wasn't coming up much, you know, barely at all. And then the desire to get pregnant came, and it's a great place for my mind and my anxiety and my fear to come up with in health stuff. And so then the fear became to get stronger, and the fear would, like, you know, I'd desire it, but then the fear would immediately come with it. It's like the light, the soul, the truth, the knowing of like, yes, I want to have this child. Yes, I want us to build this family. Yes, I want to become a mother would come up. But then also the fear would come up immediately with it. And because of that fear started to kind of feel so strong for me sometimes, it then created this rushing for me. And I then felt like this rush, and I felt like I need to get pregnant. I want to get pregnant so I can prove to myself, and so I can prove that I can get pregnant, because I'm so terrified that I won't be able to. So rather than wait until the time is right, or wait until, you know, we're in like a really nurtured place, I'm going to then, you know, I'm going to then like instead I want it to happen now, because then I can just go, oh, I can get pregnant. So it was like the desire then started to kind of shift to kind of prove to myself that I needed to know if I could, and I needed to know if I was able to get pregnant. So then this rush started, and this was really interesting because it was I really like had to work on, you know, my subconscious, and work on the somatic level, work on the shadow level of really like coming into my body, coming into my womb, coming into my being of what is driving this, and really discovering this like this space of rush and force that was coming to prove to myself. And, you know, and then I felt that I was going through a space of I wasn't working a lot because I chose to step back, and I chose to take a rest. I chose to like prepare my body to get pregnant, and chose to kind of just focus on my training was going to come up that I was facilitating, and in a few months' time, and I wanted to really just like put all my energy into that space, and I was resting, and yeah, so in that space and that time, I had a lot of time to self-reflect and like really go even more deep with myself, with my mentor Shelley, with trusted friends, and I got to really kind of see that also in this time of where I was preparing for the training. We were like me and my partner were kind of going through some like tough like valleys of difficult times together, just like the growing pains of a relationship, of us triggering each other, and things coming up and things coming out. And he also was working a lot, and he was so like really in his artistry of being so successful, and he was really kind of killing it and like loving being back in his masculine energy of work provider, because in COVID, he'd like lost that a lot. And because he was so busy and so in his purpose, and I wasn't, because in that just timing of coincidentally but synchronistically, I had taken a step back, so I actually had a lot of space and time. And in that space and time, I then would just want connection, and like all of my woundings of anxious attachment, of neediness coming alive and coming up. And yeah, and in that, then I started to discover that there was this rush again of, it wasn't necessarily a rush, but this like neediness, not a desire, not a yearning to get pregnant, but it was this neediness of needing him and wanting to get pregnant, for it to like unconsciously, when I unpack this and like kind of really delve into my body, delve into like the shadow behind it, the somatics within it, it's like going within the psyche, within the subconscious, within the body, and discovering that again this like there was this drive again, that the drive was coming from, at this point, wanting it for our relationship to get better. And this was something that I didn't want it to come from here. And as soon as I opened that, as soon as I realized that, I was just like, it was kind of a relief. And then, I dropped it, I let it go. And then I allowed that to just kind of take, I just allowed myself to live life for a while. And I just allowed myself to kind of let go of this desire of pregnancy being so strong and in the forefront of my mind. And I really like brought myself into kind of the truth, and with assistance with my mentors and friends and, loved ones. And I remember sharing these conversations with Gabby, one of my best friends, and, really seeing and also really acknowledging about, wow, like a lot of women really do probably like desire or get pregnant or want to get pregnant from a wounded space of wanting to keep their man, and we all kind of know this, like people say that, oh, she's trapped him and stuff like this, and that's kind of a really like sad, negative way to put it, but in some instances it could be that way. But I also, like, from my own experience, without me of delving into that shadow and delving into like what is actually driving this so much right now in my body and in my mind, it was actually from shadow, and it wasn't from a healthy, like, loving, desiring space of like pregnancy and I'm ready to become a mother, and we're ready, and this is the divine timing of spirit, of soul, of all that exists. And it made me really realize that it's really real, this what is creating the desire so deeply and strongly for some people, if they're not doing the work to drop within, if they're not mentoring with someone to challenge them, if they're not going into their body, like, how do they know where the desire so strongly is coming from? And this is what I then feel, that a lot of babies may be being birthed or conceived from a space of shadow. And this really comes with no judgment, right? I'm just I'm really sharing just from my self-reflection realizations that, you know, this must be happening with people. So yeah, anyway, this all happened. I started to move on with my life, was like really kind of thriving, and preparing and just enjoying life. And then as I was coming up to my facilitator training that I was holding, which was going to be a month long in person that I needed to kind of commit to and be there for, and you know, the before, the after, and we were online before, so it was like a lot of energy that going into this. And before that, as I was just so focused on that and so deep in my service and so deep in, you know, just a lot of work, my partner then, he started to get sick. He is someone who, his emotions and energy and subconscious manifests pretty quick in the physical body. I don't want to compare to me, but I want to almost say quicker than me. We have a different body structure, and yeah, so when he is feeling something or going through something, it shows up in his body pretty quick. And yeah, he started to go through his own huge dark night of the soul, and we all know what that like encounters of just so much energy it takes from you, and the purging and the releasing and all of the stuff that was going on with him. And you know, it was a couple of months later, and then I was really in this like kind of clean, beautiful space of like the desire was real, the desire was strong, it wasn't coming from shadow. All of that had been kind of released, moved on from, and what remained was just this beautiful pillar of just like truth of light of like, yes, like I'm ready to become a mother. And you know, like having that confirmed by mentors, like having that confirmed back to me, that reflection back to me of like, yes, this is like, you know, real, and the desire is real, and it's like this is such a like healthy space now. And yeah, so as that was like then so pure and real and exciting for me, my partner then was going through this like big dark night of the soul, and he got really sick. And as he got really sick, he got really sick, you know. And I'm not going to talk about his personal stuff too much, but what I do just want to say is like, you know, he was really, really, really unwell, and it was quite scary and really triggering for me also to go through that. And it was a really intense time. And so the next kind of, I don't know exactly how long, but 4 to 5 months was just like really about his recovery and me navigating and learning and growing and working on myself, how to just be in the role I needed to be for him, and just continue to drop into my feminine essence, to not force him, push him, squish him, and just like allow him to navigate this journey he was on, and just be in that receptive, loving, open, supportive, encouraging feminine energy. And that was hard but it was absolutely amazing in the end, because it really brought us into this like more balance and polarity. Anyway, so I went away and I focused on, you know, myself after when Yuda was a little bit better, and I took myself away to Europe and visited some friends. And when I came back, it was like, okay, this is time now. I'm ready, we're ready, Yuda's healthy, I'm healthy. I felt like this deep knowing that my trip to Europe by myself was like my last big trip of like traveling, of just like total freedom, you know, and no baby, no family, just me, and being able to kind of, I just hopped around different places for 3 weeks and had like so much girl time, sister time, and yeah, it was amazing. And it was just this deep knowing that this was it now, this is it, and this is it. So as we then, when I came back, so from October it probably was, or October, November, we then like really started to like, okay, like call in the baby and conceive and want to conceive. And yeah, so from this point was where kind of it was just pure desire, pure yearning and wanting. And yeah, so every month when my menstruation would come, it was just this like deep, confronting, devastating grief of just feeling, I feel it in my body a little bit now. Just feeling so sad and devastated every time my menstruation would come, and feeling just, it felt like a loss every month when my bleed would come. And after my ovulation and those 2 weeks between ovulation and period, and it's like that time of like, am I going to be pregnant yet, am I not, it kind of just felt like such an intense time, and it didn't feel this like magical journey, and like it was just the realistic part of it, of like what a lot of people go through and feel, of like that pain every month. And just every month when the bleed would come, just feeling this like just immense grief, and allowing myself to feel that, and allowing myself to cry it out, and just, I remember I have an image of me in the bath, like I just being in the bath, crying and bleeding, and letting myself feel all of the pain of like why, being in that energy of just feeling like helpless and no hope, and hopeless, and I'd let myself feel that. And then of course after a few days, even a day sometimes, it would go, and then I would feel again like hormonally as well, I'd have energy again, I'd have hope, I'd have trust, I'd have inspiration, I'd have faith, and it would be like, it's coming, And then it got to January or February, but I know I was in it in February, so I don't know when I decided exactly, but it got to January, February, and I still wasn't pregnant. And and I also want to just backtrack to like all of those times when I was desiring to get pregnant before my Europe trip. So, like a year, I don't know exactly a timeline, but like a year before, of almost every month having unprotected sex. So it wasn't that it was just like these 2 or 3 months of being like, it's only been 2 or 3 months, why have I not got pregnant? Like, I had sex many times with no conception. So that part, that fear, and that part of my psyche would be like, well, it's not happened yet, and you've never got pregnant before, and maybe you can't then, because it's been like, how many cycles have you had unprotected sex and you've never got pregnant, So it wasn't just like these 2-3 months, and it's like, this was going on and off. If I really kind of look back, it was like, there was a long time before that, there was no protection, and a lot of the times probably it was when I was ovulating. So anyway, in January I decided, okay, like I really want to go into what is blocking me. Why am I blocking myself? Like, what is this? I feel that so many people, they focus on the food preparation and conscious conception of like preparing for pregnancy, and I was, and preparing your physical body, and so many people are preparing in that way. But as you can see, I was already preparing, going into my psyche, going into my shadow work, going into my body, into the somatic body, into my womb, continuously before, to find out where the rush was coming from, where the force was coming from, where the shadow was coming in, where the desire, where was it true desire, or was the desire also mixed up and entangled with shadow as well. So it was a lot of preparation somatically and within my psyche, within shadow work, and like really confronting truths about myself. So and then So, but in January I was like, okay, I want to get like serious and deep with this, like what's blocking me, I want to call this in, and like this, you know, is coming from me, and what is going on. So I entered into mentorship with Shelley, and as a lot of you know, when working in mentorship in a container of, you know, a certain amount of time, it's like everything has the opportunity to kind of come up, because your spirit, your soul knows that there's support there. So your soul is kind of like, bring it all up now, because there's the support there, and like, let's get it all out and let's start working with it all. So in those 8 weeks, it was a really intense time of just kind of really facing more and more of where I was at, more and more of my control, more and more of where my shadow was creeping in, more and more of where this rush and force had been with me my whole life. You know, I was then working on myself outside of the mentorship, but just in all of my rites of passages. So my rites of passages, you know, being like being birthed, my rites of passage of the first time of having sex, having my period, and all of these times, and every rite of passage had a common theme within them. And I then was bringing that common theme, and they were all shadow based. That common theme was coming into the desire to get pregnant, and I didn't want to get pregnant from that common theme of shadow that had been since I was birthed into the world. And this is why kind of rites of passage work is so interesting and important and inspiring, to look at what your patterns are and to look at what has been going on in every big rite of passage cycle you've been through, and what shadows are there, because if we don't work on them, they're going to keep coming through the rest of our rites of passage, you know. And so I got to really work on that too, and I got to really work on like what showed up within me when I first got my menstruation, when I first had sex, when I was birthed into the world, and all of these like really, you know, pivotal times in my life of where we as a Western culture, we don't celebrate or honor those important rites of passage. And the indigenous people and a lot of cultures do and did, and for me, I didn't, you know, I never had my period celebrated. It was filled with shame and rush as well, and a rush to want to have my period. I was so young, like really just wanting to be a girl who had a period, and, you know, just this such a strong push and force within me to just get old quick, and in all rites of passage this way also. And so much came from force and rush, and I didn't want that to be the case with the pregnancy. I wanted it to come from trust and surrender. So let me just have a look. So as I was in this 8-week container, you know, it was like we really kind of got to this point, and it felt so big at the time. It felt so big, and, you know, Shelley, my mentor and my friend, but she had reflected to this with me before, and because she was reflecting it to me, and I wasn't, but I felt like I wasn't ready to face it yet, and I wasn't feeling it yet, so I couldn't feel the impact that she was telling me. And she was reflecting with me that I didn't feel worthy to become a mother, and that I had shame, and that I was blocking myself from becoming a mother. And it wasn't until a few weeks later, or whenever I was by myself at home in my temple, and I was in this huge process, and I was going through so much somatic work, body work, purging by myself, and then I had my journal out, and I don't actually journal often, and I journaled and journaled, and it was just this, and my psyche just opened up, and I could just hear the voice as loud as day of, I don't deserve to get pregnant, I don't deserve to become a mother, I don't deserve like if I become a mother, what if I'm this and this, and I don't want to recreate that, or I don't want to create that for someone. And this realization just, and it just shattered all of the falseness that was blocking me, and into realization of truth of this, like, this has been driving me and blocking me and it was unbelievable. And in this time period, me and my partner went to see a homeopath as well, and we just shared that we wanted to get pregnant, and just to check us and anything, blah blah blah. And my partner got checked, and he was absolutely fine, and he was just healthy as ever. And they were like, nope, he's fine, like everything's fine. He's just like, he's open, he's chill. And even though I was actively the one wanting it so much, it was actually me with the biggest block. And even there with the homeopath, it was that he was like, this is you, and this is your body, and your body, like my body was unwell as well because I was processing other things. So it then came to me finally facing the truth of something I needed to face, and that was, I already knew I had a small cyst, a small polyp on my cervix. I'd had another one before, and I'd healed it, and that was within my womb, that was my ovaries. And then I had another one on my cervix, and I shrunk it. However, it was still a little bit there, I don't know if it was a polyp in the end, but it was a polyp or a cyst, and it was right bang on my cervix. And this had been manifested by myself in that exact position on my cervix as a literal barrier and block to not be able to conceive or get pregnant, because it was a manifestation of my shame. And as we know, frequency lives in the body, energy lives in the body, emotion lives in the body, and it manifests into whatever we are holding, whatever we are going through, and it comes into the physical, and it shows up in all different illnesses and ways. And for me, the shame of feeling unworthy of becoming a mother, and deserving and not deserving, and all of these distorted beliefs about myself and deep painful shame had actually manifested into a small cyst on the exact space of the cervix of where sperm enters you. And I'd known this already the months before, but I would always brush it off to say, it doesn't matter about that though, it doesn't matter about that though. But actually it did matter about that. And so I brought it in mentorship, I brought it to Shelley, and she was like, why have you got that? Get it removed. Why, you look how clever your ego is at blocking you, just get it removed, it's fine. And I went into the hospital, I went into surgery, I got it removed, my first time ever going under anesthetics, and it was a 20-minute procedure by a doctor that I love in Bali. And Dr. Made Surya, if anyone wants ever get anything removed on their cervix. And he removed it, and I then went home, I recovered, I was fine, it was great. I actually loved it, the procedure, to be honest, going under and being put to sleep like that. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. But that was still a lot, it was a lot to go into surgery, it was a lot to do that, it was a lot for the process, it was a lot to face that. And allow myself to remove it, allow myself to stop blocking myself, right? And I then, the week after, I believe, or 2 weeks, but very shortly after, it could have even been days, I then had severe pain all in my face, in my mouth, in my tooth, and I needed to get my wisdom tooth removed. And I was in severe pain, sickness, illness, and my partner was home, and my best friend was visiting for 2 months, staying with us. And I was just this sick woman, and it was this huge purging process that I had to, go through with my wisdom tooth and removal of tooth, and just what that represented in itself too, and also going through that pain and feeling exactly the pain of like having a tooth come through, and like what babies go through when they're teething, and like how I'm going to have so much more compassion for them now because I recently went through it of my tooth. And just the pain and the confrontation and the constant purging and the toll on my energy of being in that dark night of the soul, of my initiation, of my preparation. And all of these shadows been exposed, everything been confronted, all of my, everything was just laid on the table, that I couldn't hide from myself anymore. I was in such a deep portal doing the work on myself with my mentor, continuously every day facing my stuff, that there was nowhere to hide anymore. And the tooth kind of was this point of release, let it go. And the next cycle, I would have conceived. Yeah, it feels really good to speak the whole story out loud like this. The next cycle we conceived, and yeah, it was pretty amazing. I actually, like 2 days after the surgery, no, couldn't have been, 4 days, I think it was, 4 days after the surgery, I was ovulating, and we actually had this real beautiful intimate evening together, and I felt that was conceiving a baby. Like, that's conceiving a baby. That was so beautiful, and that was like God, and then the next day I went to Shelly's house, and Shelly is my oldest, closest friend in Bali, so she's not just my mentor. And she's like, get in the pool, and she's like, just come in the pool, and she starts doing this healing on me in the water, and it was really profound. And she was like, everything that happened before is gone, and from today now is this is like conception. And we were laughing after. She was like, we just conceived a baby. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, no, I conceived it yesterday. It was yesterday. So I don't want to say that anything before today didn't exist, because I really think I conceived yesterday. And my period did come though, and so I didn't conceive that day. It was actually the next cycle. So it was literally the month after the surgery, because my ovulation was a few days after the surgery. So a month later, literally the next cycle, we conceived. And yeah, it was really, 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 really beautiful. And I found out when I was in Spain, in Europe, which was really interesting to find out. And it was really interesting to find out in that way without my partner. And I had real amazing support with me though in Spain. And yeah, it's been a real big journey, and it really was just this huge journey of this I believe in this anyway. It's my work, it's my truth, it's my path. But shadow work is everything, and somatic work is everything, and womb work is so a big, deep passion of mine. And of course, this had to be my conception journey, the most desirable thing I had in my life, of always wanting, and knowing that my life is going to change when I become a mother. And all I want so deeply within myself is to become a mother. And because that initiation was so important for me, and it meant everything to me, and doesn't mean everything to me, and it was all connected to my womb, of course my soul and spirit had to put me through this journey so that I could really learn and embody and awaken to so much. And it opened my eyes to the truth and importance in total faith, surrender, and seeing that as soon as I was in that surrender, in that faith, and as soon as I had unlocked and unblocked so much of my psyche and shadow and all of those blind spots and sneaky parts that were getting in my way and the shame, as soon as I worked through it all, I literally removed the physical manifestation of shame, how it manifested in my body or blocking me. And I literally, the next month, conceived and got pregnant. And it's a miracle. It really, and like, it's a miracle. Like, that's all I kept thinking and feeling when I got pregnant. When I had the test of like, it's a miracle. Like, life is a miracle. Like, blessings, these babies are miracles. And yeah, my prayer is just for everyone and anyone going through anything right now and trying to conceive. And I really hope this podcast, this video, can be an inspiration for people who are losing hope, and it would help me. I remember listening to some like 2 or 3 beautiful videos, podcasts, and just being really inspired by them and finding that faith in their journey and finding the realness, because there was also shame around me grieving every month when I would get my period when I hadn't got pregnant yet. And there was this shame around, why can't I get pregnant? What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough to get pregnant. Is there something wrong with me, And that being triggered in it. And then I just really want to be real in this and say, if you're going through that too, there is nothing wrong with you, and you are beautiful and worthy and deserving too. And our mind, shame does stuff to us. And yeah, the going through your period every month and having your menstruation come every month, it's a real grieving process that needs to be felt, and you need to feel that if you are going through that. And also just really dissolving the fear and paranoia, and knowing that fear and paranoia is probably also linked to some deep shadows in there and deep subconscious programming, conditioning, trauma in your body that wants to be worked through. And I really am just so inspired and passionate about working with people on this journey and bringing in the importance of the shadow work, of the somatic work, of the emotional work, and not just focusing on, the preparation for conception of food, because there's a lot of emphasis on this now. A lot of people, going through meal plans and what they're eating, their diet, their lifestyle, their exercise, which is all so important and a piece of the puzzle. But a huge piece of the puzzle that is not spoken about and that I don't hear is people really going through the shadow work and the somatic work and the womb work to really prepare themselves. Like, that is the preparation. That was the preparation for me. And this is my path, so I'm going to live and embody and breathe and walk and talk it. And I just really want to be that helping hand for other people now that I've moved through that transition, and now that I've in this space of embodiment and trust and knowing and understanding that I can then really help people with it. And knowing that, of course, I had to go through this journey, because I always go through a big journey with shadow work and with womb work and with, anything that is similar to this, because it's part of my path to teach, to walk, and to be in service to other women around it. So it just feels like, of course that happened. But it's felt really interesting to relive all of this, because since I've been pregnant, it's just felt like, of course I'm pregnant. It's just felt like, how did I ever doubt that I would get pregnant? Like, of course I'm pregnant. It just feels so just normality for me, like totally normal, totally meant to be. And just, yeah, so it feels interesting to go back to the journey and talk about it in full detail like this, because it feels like a real lifetime ago already. But yeah, I just really wanted to just like kind of portray that and just be so real in the truth and in the shadows and in the vulnerability of all of this, and just like really sending my love to anyone who is going through this right now, and anyone who is in their preparation for becoming a mother, physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and just like really just like opening my heart and sending my love to you, so that you can then just really, call in your baby, and in the exact way and the exact time that's supposed to be. And it's really up to God. It's not up to us. It's up to God. It's up to spirit. It's up to source. It's up to the baby when the baby wants to come through. And just like I knew it would be, now it all makes sense of why it had to happen this way, and why he came through it exactly the moment he came through. It all makes sense now. So yeah, just a little bit about when I did find out I was pregnant. Again, like I actually I started to have an inkling when I was in my hometown in Jersey for 4 days, and I started to have an inkling, but I didn't want to do a test until it had been like way over. And then when it got to 1 week over is when I did the test. And it's my highest recommendation of listen to what it says online and listen to what pregnancies tests say. And they say, don't test before your period's missed. Like, don't test just because you're curious and you're excited and you're like, don't test from that space, because it will just be, with me, it was a false negative, because I actually had done a test, but it was because I wanted to give it to my partner for his birthday present. If it was a positive, I was going to go, look, I'm pregnant, happy birthday, before I flew to Europe, and because I was going to a wedding, and it was a negative, but I actually was pregnant. And then my missed period was there a few days later, and then I waited a week, and then I took the test. So I really recommend that you just wait and do what it says on the boxes and what it says online of like, do your pregnancy test when it's already been the missed period, and leave it a few days if you can. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening to my long story, and thank you for being here. And I just hope that you can really take the medicine from my story of just everything I went through, and all of the shadows I had to face and the blind spots I had to face, and letting that all go, so that the desire for pregnancy, for motherhood, for family came from such a pure, beautiful space of the sacred union coming into creation, of creating life, and the masculine and feminine, literally. And it was funny because when I conceived, I was holding a retreat called the Sacred Union, or the Path to the Sacred Union, and that is when I conceived, when I was teaching about the sacred union of the masculine and feminine. So it's all very, very, very synchronistic. And yeah, a lot of you felt it already when I announced I was pregnant. The amount of comments and messages that were saying, I dreamt you were pregnant the other day, the other week, the other month. And I really feel like I was like you were all channeling me, and I was like coming into your dreams and whatever it was, like maybe not channeling me, but just like my aura, my energy field was very open about it, and everyone was picking up on it, and everyone could feel that it was coming for me, unconsciously or consciously. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. That is all from me. Have a beautiful day.